The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our April Microsoft Dynamics Breakthrough session. Today's session will cover mobility and its benefits to your business. My name is Jen Van Pelt. I'm a marketing associate here at Infinity. Joining me is Michael Hammonds. Mike is the Director of Solution Architects for Infinity and has over 15 years of experience in CRM and business analytics. He also is one of our primary bloggers on our i3 community site, so be sure to check out his weekly posts for more information on current trends and other information. Just as a reminder, before we get started, all lines are muted and will remain so throughout the call. So if you'd like to ask a question, please submit it using the GoToWebinar console on the right of your screen, and we will be sure to answer everyone's questions at the end of the presentation. Now, without further ado, I'd like to hand things over to Mike to go over our agenda and get things started.
Great. Thanks, Jen. Appreciate it. And thank you all for taking the time out of your busy days to check out today's webinar. Quick overview of the agenda, touch briefly on why mobility. It's obviously an important topic. We've got a lot of people that have signed up for today's webinar. Also cover just a high-level few of the challenges. I'm also going to cover some of the Microsoft Mobile updates. This is primarily what's going to be coming in what they're now calling the Q2 release. That should be out hopefully in May, but no later than June. And then I'll also briefly cover some of your other mobile options, because there are still several out there. And then I'll briefly do a demo just to give you a taste of a couple of the different options. So with that, let's jump into why mobility. And this was a Gartner study, and basically they were asking, I think it was around 5,000, 6,000 business users, whether or not they did access or would like to access business content outside of the office. And a clear majority said yes, and people, I think there was another follow-up question on would you like to if you did not have access. That number was even higher. So really what that means is that having a mobile strategy really is no longer a nice to have. It's becoming a business necessity. And why is that? Well, big cause for a lot of that is that smartphones are exploding, literally. The fact that this year smartphone sales are expected to beat or outsell PCs. So that's a heck of a lot of smartphones out there. If you do a fair amount of travel like I do, and you take a look down the aisle of a plane or bus or train, you pretty much see that the vast majority of people have a smartphone that they're tapping on. Very few are having the older style non-smartphones and old flip phones, becoming a way of the dinosaurs, if you will, and that was a rapid acceleration of those. In addition to smartphones exploding, tablets are as well. And as this chart shows, we see that tablet sales will challenge PC sales over the next couple of years. So while that smartphone growth isn't as high, I think a lot of that is still due to some level of cost. I mean, most of the devices, even on a plan, are in that $500 to $800 range. Whereas smartphones typically are either free or $100 or $200 at most with a plan. So I think that's a large part of that. But what I think this also points out is that while tablets and smartphones are growing, you still see that PC and laptop sales are also growing at the same time. They're just not growing as much. And so what this ultimately means is more and more of us are becoming multi-device users. I'm one of those. When I do short trips, I love to just be able to walk out the door with my smartphone or my iPad. But on longer trips, I still need to have my laptop, because for me to truly be productive, especially because I do presentations and work on spreadsheets and proposals and Word documents, you still just can't be 100% as productive on a smartphone or an iPad device as you can with a laptop for that type of work. But ultimately, the fact that both smartphones and tablets are becoming so huge, in fact, within the next couple of years, 195 million people just in the U.S., that's over 2/3 of citizens in this country. So that's a huge amount of people that will have tablets. That leads to some of the challenges. There's no clear winner today. You know, especially in the smartphone market, there's still a lot of players. The big ones are the obvious ones: iPhone, BlackBerry, Android, and Windows. The rest are pretty much dying out, and it seems that BlackBerry is having huge problems keeping up with the demands of smartphone users from both an app and a device perspective. But what that ultimately means is, since there are so many different choices, even if there's still 3 major choices, that's still a lot that people have to support. And kind of like the old browser wars, unfortunately the underlying technologies aren't the same, and so it becomes more of a challenge to support all of those. Forrester last year did a study of about 2,300 companies and asked, you know, what benefits has your firm experienced as a result of deploying mobile applications? And they didn't distinguish between smartphone and tablet devices. However, you can kind of, you know, they're more or less the same, because they still, the largest benefit is from device-specific apps. But anyway, and we kind of concur with this, and we see that it is a huge productivity increase. You know, now, especially if your laptop takes, you know, a minute or 2 to boot up, but you can flip on your smartphone or tablet device in about 3 seconds, that means you can definitely become productive much more quickly. And particularly if you're on the road, you know, it's much easier to feel your phone vibrate in your pants and check what email came in or see who's texting you than it is to have to get to some place where you can crack open your laptop and fire it up and then get connected and then finally see what information needs your attention. But also because of that, instant access, employee responsiveness, and decision-making is improved. Now, this is especially true from being able to resolve those customer issues, because now that we have much greater near instant access, we can respond to those in a much faster way than we used to be able to. And then a couple of those others that I won't go through, but you can download the deck after today's meeting. So that really leads to, what are the overall challenges? Well, I already kind of pointed this out from an operating system: multiple devices, and devices not only from an operating system, but from a device and you know, screen resolution perspective. You know, you've got 3.5-inch screen devices, you've got 4-inch screen devices, 4.5-inch. There's even the Samsungs that have 5, 7, 8, and 10-inch devices. So there's a huge amount of disparity between the devices and their resolution capabilities. The other is access to data, and that's primarily access to your internal data. You know, external data and web services is fairly easy. There's usually an app for that, but it gets a little more challenging when you also need to provide access to data that's internal and not exposed on the web or not exposed easily to these devices. As mentioned earlier, also, even just the device cost. If we truly are becoming multi-devices, and I'm one of those, I have a smartphone, a tablet, and a PC, or a laptop really, those are 3 devices, and those add up. And the tablets are still probably going to remain in that $500 to $1,000 range, at least, you know, for the next couple of years. There might be some that'll come out that'll start to drive some of that pricing down, but it's still going to be the general cost. Overall, changing needs, rapidly changing world, rapidly changing customer needs and requirements. So your systems have to be able to change just as rapidly to be able to support those. And then ultimately, because of the changing needs and the changing devices, support costs do increase somewhat, because somebody still has to be able to make sure that you can get connected with all those devices, that if something happens, somebody can either help you fix them or get a replacement very quickly. So let's talk a little bit about how Microsoft is going to help with some of these challenges. And this is really focused on the mobile service updates that have just occurred and are going to occur. For most of you that are familiar with Dynamics CRM, last year, Q4 2011, there was what was called the R7 release, which gave us some social productivity, which means activity feeds, and I'll show you a little bit of what that means on a device. And you know, continue to support the Mobile Express application, but also are it's kind of the setup for additional mobile capabilities. In that activity feed social aspect or social interaction aspect, Microsoft for the Windows Phone also released an application called Activity Feeds for Windows Mobile that gives you direct access to your CRM system, particularly designed around the activity feeds and interacting through those kind of text message, Facebook-like, Twitter-like updates to your CRM system, plus giving you read-only access to your accounts, contacts, leads, etc. And again, I'll demonstrate that here shortly. But coming up is R8, Release 8, which Microsoft is calling CRM Anywhere. And this is really where they're going to start to build much more heavily on the whole mobile aspect, as well as the social aspect. And then R9, we'll see even greater improvements on top of that, but that'll be coming out towards the end of the year. So nice to see that their release cadence, you know, they've been hitting their commitments. They said they were going to have 2 major functionality releases per year and 2 minor ones, and they've been on track with that. So kudos to Microsoft for that. So the November 21 update, it did provide, you know, like this 365 experience and being able to manage Office 365 with Dynamics CRM together in one administrative console and some enterprise capabilities. But as I mentioned, the 2 biggies that most affected us end users was the activity feeds and the Windows Phone capabilities. So I'm not going to go into too much detail on that because most of us already have access to that on activity feeds. If you don't, here's kind of how that laid out. If you were a Dynamics CRM Online user prior to the Q4 2011 release, which I think was roughly October, November, can't remember offhand exactly, you have to download it and install it as a solution. So you go into Marketplace, search for activity feeds, download it, and install it as a solution. It's very easy, takes about 5 minutes, and it's pretty seamless. If you were a customer, Dynamics CRM Online post that release, it's automatically configured in your environment. You just have to turn it on. If you are an on-premise customer, it is still free, but similar to online, you have to download it as a solution and install it. Again, along with that, I think they did a tremendous job. Solutions are finally really, you know, coming up to speed in terms of being able to easily plug things in, plug new functionality in, and if you don't like it, you can actually remove it without it negatively affecting your system. So check it out if you haven't. I highly encourage you. It's nice once you start using it. So that brings us to Q2, CRM Anywhere. And really the top 3 to me are the ones that are most exciting. For example, mobility. You know, we're going to have a true full-fledged Microsoft-supported mobile client. We'll dive into that in a second. Another one that's equally as exciting, browser flexibility. So finally we get to a point where Dynamics CRM will be supported on other browsers. So we're no longer tied just to Internet Explorer. I love Internet Explorer, but you know what? Sometimes it's, you know, I'm kind of a multi-browser kind of guy, so it's nice that they'll start supporting these other browsers. But along with that, one of those browsers that will be supported specifically will be iPad, so keep that in mind. And then additional social functionality where we'll start to see them tie more and more into direct access to, for example, LinkedIn, to Twitter, to Facebook, and being able to leverage those channels, those communication channels, much more easily with our external and internal people, but seeing that in context of CRM. So what's the big announcement on the mobile side? For those of you that aren't aware, there's been an announcement that was made a couple of months ago, and a company out there called CWR Mobility was one of the front runners in terms of mobile CRM capabilities. And so Microsoft is now licensing their technology. You know, who knows what will happen in the future, but they are licensing the technology. It will be officially provided and supported by Microsoft, and it will support all of these devices, iPads, iPhones, Androids, Blackberries, and Windows Mobile. So it's nice in that Microsoft is stepping up, saw that it was going to take them a little longer than they were comfortable with having a full-fledged mobile client, went out there, did an analysis, and found one that they were comfortable with. And so behind the scenes, that's really what it is. Along with that, though, it's not going away. So CWR mobility, there is still a need for that, and I'll explain why in a minute. But CRM Mobile overall, it will connect to both online as well as on-premise. So you're not limited from that perspective. It does support all the major smartphone and tablet devices. However, it will only be available through Microsoft as a subscription service. Okay, so the current pricing is $30 per user per month. Depending on what fine print you read, sometimes they say starting at, but other times they say $30. So we'll hear a little bit more about that, I'm sure, in the next month or so. But anyway, what that means is you will not be able to buy a server component and or buy the software outright from Microsoft. That's where CWR still comes into play. If you're more comfortable owning your software, you can still get essentially the same thing directly through CWR Mobile. But along with that $30 pricing, you get up to 3 devices, so that's great for me since I have a smartphone and a tablet, iPad, as well as a laptop PC, which doesn't really kind of fall under the mobile aspect, but potentially could. Anyway, you get up to 3 devices, so that's great. You're not charged per device like some vendors out there. It will support multiple languages, 10 or 12, I think, out of the gate, and they're ramping that up quickly as well. And then offline access, which is a biggie for some industries that truly need that offline capability so that I can still use the CRM system on my mobile device, even if I don't have a cellular or Wi-Fi connection, which is great. So briefly, the platforms supported on the devices we see here from a, my screen just went blank, sorry about that. Hang on. Well, I tried to hit the highlighter, but there again. So it doesn't like the highlighter, so I'm not going to use it. So anyway, smartphones, Windows Phone 7.5, so Mango and above, iPhone 3GS, but it has to be iOS 5 and above, and then Android 2.2. Keep in mind, and I have verified this directly, as of today, that being what, April 26, 2012, I think, the Android ice cream sandwich on the tablet is not currently supported and probably will not be supported by May or June, unless they surprise us. However, it is something that they are working on and do fully expect to support the Android tablet as well as Microsoft tablets at the end of the year, but Android tablets also probably sometime at the end of the year. Okay, so today, or rather as soon as this is released, tablet-wise, iPads are the only ones that are supported, and it has to be iPads 5 and above, but that's generally not an issue for most people because most people are already on 5. I think I read somewhere 90, 95%. But here to me is a real nice bonus, if you will, and the fact that they are supporting the Safari browser on the iPad device, that to me sounds like, anyway, and no one's given me a firm commitment, but it means that there could very well be full CRM support on the iPad. So that could be a nice bonus there if that is indeed the case. Now, that obviously would not be offline capability, so you would need to be connected, but, man, that'll sure be pretty cool if you can have full-fledged CRM functionality on that device. At least I think it will be. Here's kind of the overall look and feel of what you're going to see when it is released. You'll see that it is taking on more of what Microsoft calls the Metro look and feel, so things are a little more square from an icon perspective. But this just gives you an idea of, say, your activities, any leads. So, and it does take full advantage of both portrait and landscape on the iPad device. Same thing on your smartphone devices. It flips between the orientations pretty well. Some mapping capabilities, and then obviously some syncing capabilities as well. And I want to just show you briefly here in a minute. To touch a little bit more on the Access CRM from multiple browsers, again, because I think that just may be a really very cool thing, the fact that iPad 2 will be supported, but now Mac and Mac browsers. So, I've heard a lot of customers say, hey, do you support the Mac? Starting in no later than June, yes, Mac for Dynamics CRM will be supported. And then obviously, Chrome and Safari is nice that they're supporting those as well, and Firefox. So I didn't have a screenshot. I tried to get one, but nobody would commit. So sorry, that's as good as you get as that blue box. Also, along with this activity feed enhancements, and it is being improved on the next release. They're going to give you some like, unlike versus follow, unfollow, kind of follow along with the overall accepted terminology. Some enhanced filtering, so you'll have some similar to views. You'll be able to create predefined filters or views for your activity feeds. Supports online and offline. This @me. This is basically, if you use Twitter, you're familiar with the @ function. And those of you may also be familiar with the hashtag function. But the next update, and actually the current update, supports the @ function. I'll show you what that means. But basically it's a way to link a message in your activity feed to a CRM record or to a CRM user. So it's pretty nice that it does that. And then they're also going to update the mobile activity feeds for Windows 7.5. I've heard also through the grapevine, but again, this is just grapevine information, so take it with a little grain of salt. Activity feeds, they are expecting to create support for other devices. So we'll see. So here is just briefly, and then while this is a screenshot, I'm going to show you on my device in a second here. But it gives you an idea of kind of what the CRM looks like on, in this case, a Windows Phone device. So that's actually the activity feeds application there. But before we jump into the actual demo, I'm just going to briefly touch on some of the other mobile options and why you might think about them. Mobile Express in particular, I think, again, because of the fact that the full mobile application is going to cost you something, you can still get mobile capabilities without having to pay additional fees. And that is through Dynamics CRM Mobile Express, which I have confirmed will also be in the next releases, so that's not going away. So you'll still have a free option out there. But it already supports multiple devices, key being because it's HTML-based. So as long as you have a fairly modern browser on your device, this even includes non-smartphones, you can still access your CRM data. You can update records. You can create new records for the most part. A couple of exceptions there, like activities, but anyway. The other big caveat is that it is always on, meaning you must always have a connection to either Wi-Fi or cellular for it to work. But hey, that's not bad for something that's free, right? Some of the Express details, I'm not going to go through all those, but it does support field level security, which is good, as well as role-based forms. So you could have, for example, an account form for a sales rep, and you could have a different account form for, say, a field service rep, if you have field service people. Something along those lines. Also, if you apply new solutions to your CRM application or you create new functionality, that is also generally supported through Mobile Express. So if you create a new entity and you decide you want to turn that entity on through mobile and offer access through Mobile Express, you can do that. The biggest caveats are, there's no JavaScript or any kind of scripting functionality behind those, so it's just, generic, simple data entry and data update capabilities, but the fact that you can do it, I think, is great. To enable those forms, you can go into the customization area. I'm not going to go through that in detail. The other is what you'll see, and this is true for 2011 only, by the way, in your customization area, there's a second form for all of your entities, and it is called literally a mobile form, so as you can kind of see there in that little red circle. And you modify it much the same way that you do a standard form. It's drag and drop. You have your fields. You pick the ones that you want, and off you go. So very easy configuration. You don't need an IT degree to turn it on or to configure it. As you can kind of see here, once you open up that form, you basically just have a list of all your fields on the left-hand side and the fields you want exposed through the mobile forms on the right-hand side. So very simple. And then the way that you access mobile forms, and this is true whether it's on-premise or online, it's your server name, including any port numbers, plus your organization name plus a /m. Now, the caveat here is if you are an on-premise user, you have to expose that port or a port and have internet IFD so that you have the ability to log in through what they call claims. So there's a little bit of work if you're an on-premise customer to be able to get mobile forms to work outside your firewall. Okay, key there being outside your firewall. If you still wanted to use it internal, say for example, you've got Wi-Fi devices and you want people to be able to walk around in the office and just to use their smartphone to update some records, as long as they're inside the firewall on Wi-Fi, they'll be able to use the forms. Or if you've got a Mac user and you want to be able to give the Mac user some access to CRM records, opportunities or leads or contacts, they can then use their Safari browser and hit that /m URL, and they'll be able to update through Mobile Express. So that to me is another nice little benefit there that not everybody's aware of. And there it is, works with Mac. Oh, and it does support those other browsers. So if you happen to be a Safari or Chrome or Firefox fan, try putting /m onto the end of your URL string that you log onto CRM with, and you should be presented with the mobile forms, assuming it's been enabled. Okay, so that's the key, assuming it's been enabled. Briefly, third-party options. There might still be some reasons why you want to go with third-party. And these are not listed in any particular order other than alphabetical. So the big ones right now out there, CWR, iPrinter, iEnterprises, Resco, and 10 digits. CWR, the fact that Microsoft's licensing their technology, I think that says that they're pretty good. But they're not going away because you may still want to own the software, so you can still buy it directly through CWR or partners like us. We are a CWR implementation partner and business partner. You may also want to do heavier customizations and get a little bit more fancy, and that would require the full-fledged client and the full-fledged dev environment for you to be able to do that. So a couple of reasons why you might still want to go the third-party option route. iEnterprise, very strong in BlackBerry, so if you're still a BlackBerry house, sorry, I won't comment. I was going to make a comment, but I won't. If you are still a BlackBerry house, and I loved my BlackBerry when I had it, trust me, I did, but they just didn't keep up, and that's all I'll say. But anyway, also they do support other applications, but it is there's another server component required. But I generally say if people are still strong BlackBerry users, it's probably the one to go because they have such great experience there. Resco is another one, and very popular. Microsoft team also recommends these guys a lot. Very nice tools. They do a lot of different things. They also have some game apps out there and some other types of apps. They've been building apps for a long time, for I think over 10 years. And they do have mobile CRM for Resco, through Resco. And it is a highly configurable product. So again, if you need something that's very custom and very specific to some very specific business needs, and you need more than, say, what I call just generic CRM account contact opportunity management, maybe you want to do some signature capture, and you need to maybe integrate with, say, a credit card signature, a credit card application, because you want to start to be able to take, credit card charges out in the field. This is where something like a Resco might be a better fit because you have a lot greater access to the underlying structure, and through Visual Studio and Mono Tools, which is basically a way to convert from Visual Studio to iPad, iPhone devices. Anyway, the other one, 10 digits, they also had a big, strong focus on BlackBerry Mobile, but they now also support iPhone, iPad. And it's a good player as well. It looks very similar to the other ones. If you've already got 10 digits, I'd say stick with it because a lot of customers have bought 10 digits. They were one of the first ones out of the gate, so nothing at all wrong with 10 digits. So mobile demo, let's go in and take a look at the mobile demo here. And again, I'm going to keep this a little bit brief. Just wanted to give you a kind of a taste of the different uses of the application. So here we see, and pardon me for the slightly grainy texture, this is a high-def cam, but unfortunately Apple doesn't make it easy for people to display their devices and applications in particular on webinars. Go figure. So I'm shooting this through a webcam, and there's my hand. Hi, everybody. Peace out, right? But what you'll see is this is what Dynamics CRM through CWR looks like. The only difference is when Microsoft releases it in June at the latest, you see the icons will be different. They'll have that metro look, so they'll be monochromatic and more squared off. But otherwise, functionality is going to be pretty much the same. So you do have the ability to access dashboards, and you can access multiple dashboards. So if you want to see your marketing dashboard, you can go in and select that as well. All of your appointments are available. So here's a list of my appointments, and then obviously we can go in and edit any of my appointments. So there's a list of appointments that can edit any related notes, so you can add notes to those. Let's just take a look at accounts for a second. Okay, so here's my list of accounts. You can go in and configure your views, and you select what views, or actually create what views you want to be available on the devices. So if I just want to see all my top accounts, there's my top accounts, and then I can go back and say, show me all my active accounts. And boom, you'll see that changes. You can then also do the searching, so you can kind of do your standard wild card searching. So if I look for ABB, there's Abbott. Again, this is live, so you can see it's pretty responsive. Here's the list detail of Abbott Limited. If I wanted to see what opportunities I have, here's a list of my related records. So there's a list of my open opportunities. I can obviously go in and edit those as well. I'm just going to go back. Some other things I'll point out. If the device can make a phone call, you can hit the dial button and it will dial the device for you. So whatever device you're on, it will use that device's capabilities. Same thing if I use email. So if I go in and type an email, it'll do that as well, and use, again, the built-in capabilities of the device that you're using or accessing. Okay. And then also if you hit a website, it'll navigate through the whatever browser is on that device. So you can at least see a map of that location, and from there you could get driving directions. All of your entities are configurable, so you can not only add additional entities over here, but you can also go in and add and remove fields. Somewhat similar to the way that Mobile Express does it. It's pretty much drag and drop. You do get a little bit more of the form. You just kind of drag the fields over where you want them. So even this option is very easy to configure. You can also configure to have either manual synchronization or auto sync, and that's just a part of the configuration inside the administrative console. So it's nice if you got users who don't like to go in and remember to click a sync button. You can tell it to auto sync, and it'll poll every 15 minutes or hour, whatever you set it to look for a connection. If it finds it, it'll sync, and if it doesn't, it'll wait until it finds a connection. So pretty brainless capability from that perspective. And then, of course, if you want to create new records, you just hit the new button there, and here's a new opportunity. So all very simple, easy to navigate, I think as capable as any other mobile device applications out there. Now I'm going to briefly show you the Mobile Express application. And here I'm going to zoom in a little bit on this because it's a little bit harder to see. But there we go. If and it might have not liked that. So here we go. Let's try and zoom in this way. Okay, so you can see what I did is I just hit my /M up there, so you can see /M is how I access this. So this happens to be online, but I can go into my accounts, and here is my list of accounts. It's a little blurry. Again, thank Apple for that. But I can do similar searches as I do in the full-fledged client. So I hit Abbott ABB. There's my Abbott's. You have the ability to do your views and filters. So there's my filters, and again, if I go in and type from there my ABBs, hit search, there's Abbott Limited. So you see it's not quite as pretty as the full client, but you have similar capabilities. In this case, here's the details, the detail view. down here are my related, so here's all my related opportunities. So you get, to me, a lot of functionality, especially the fact that you're not having to pay extra for it. You can still hit, for example, a phone number field, and it'll dial those for you. So if you hit it and it understands it, or you can hit an email field, and it'll pop up your email. So you still have some of those capabilities there that help with productivity. Another one of the big limitations, oddly enough, is the fact that you, for some reason, can't create appointments. So I'm going to give you another quick little tip here. You can work around that through workflow. And the way that I've done that is you can go into, say, accounts, and let's just pick one. If you wanted to add, you can either do this with notes or tasks, but you can add a new task, and you can use a keyword, for example, in the subject or in the body. It doesn't really matter, complete. And when I say complete meeting, what this will do is this will take the notes that I've entered, and once it saves, the workflow will kick off, and it's going to look for complete meeting in the title. And if it finds it, it's going to convert that note or that task or whatever you want to a completed activity for you, or to a activity that you then need to complete, so you can go in and add additional notes if you wanted to. But that's a real simple, easy workaround. It takes literally like 10 minutes to create that type of workflow and gets around some of those limitations. And that's probably one of the greatest limitations, I think, is them not supporting appointments right now. Hopefully we'll see that changing. You won't have to do the workflow workaround, but not that big a deal. Where there's a will, there's a way. And now finally I'm going to give you a taste of the activity feeds as well as the Windows mobile device. So let's start with the Windows full-fledged mobile client. And so we see here, this is what it will look like. Again, when it's released, the icons will just be different, but everything else remains the same. So when I go in, get a list of my appointments, here's a list of all of my open appointments. And so from there, I can kind of scroll through those. And then let's go back. If I want to go and say, look at my opportunities or my accounts, I'm going to select accounts. And then from here, I want to go into Abbott Limited. And so I touch Abbott Limited. And then similar to the other applications, if I hit the dial phone, it'll dial, so you can call. If you hit the little email icon, it'll fire up the email, so you can hit the email. I'm not going to do that right now. Or if you hit the little browser icon, then obviously it will take you to the browser, and it'll take you to that. Generally, it takes you to the location of the account, so that you can then plot, say, get directions from wherever you're at. So it's a nice little capability there. And then if I just kind of keep scrolling to the right here, here's additional details, some administrative functionality, and then finally all my related information. So here's my related opportunities. So these are all the opportunities that we're working on for Abbott. Okay, so real nice. And I've become a big, huge Windows mobile fan. Highly recommended if your contract's about up. I'm loving it. It's been one of my favorite phones. But anyway, that was just a personal plug. But definitely recommend you checking it out if you can. And then now I will take you to the CRM activity feeds application. And so as I mentioned, here's kind of your user post. Here's your auto post. So these are posts where you've set anytime an opportunity gets created, I want it to post to the wall. And you can go in and add additional posts. So you can say, just had a great meeting at Abbott. And here's where that at functionality comes into play. I'm going to just briefly show you what that means. If you happen to put in an at symbol in front of a word, so let's just say I'm going to do at Abbott, what that will do is that's a keyword, that's a lookup keyword. Okay, so when you put an at symbol in front of a name, it's going to do a lookup and it'll show you accounts, contacts, users in front of that @ symbol, so that you can then link that particular post with that contact, account, opportunity, or customer or user. So additional nice way for you to get information into the system with just being able to type data and not have to go searching for the records first and being able to add those. But what I also like about activity feeds is that you can also get full read-only access to all of those. Oops, actually, I think I may have just gone too far beyond and close that out. Let's go into here. But it gives you full read-only access to the rest of your records, so your accounts, your contacts, opportunities, leads. So you still can, for example, go in, look up a record, and you can also, even though it's read-only access, it'll still give you the ability to fire off an email or launch a phone call from within those devices. So even though it's read-only, you still get some pretty decent functionality there. And again, this is an app that's for free, so it certainly gives you some great capabilities for little to no cost. So those are kind of the high-level demos that I wanted to give you, kind of those tastes. And with that, I think we're going to go ahead and open this up for questions. And again, thanks for joining.
If anyone has any questions, feel free to just add them into the console, and I'll make sure that Mike answers them. I'll just give you guys a few minutes. It is looking like we have a quiet group today. Mike, I just want to thank you for sharing all of this with us, and thank you everyone for attending. We hope you enjoyed our session. Again, just as a reminder, the winner of today's Amazon gift card drawing will be announced via email tomorrow, so good luck to all of you. And again, thanks for coming, and have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.